I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
Hi, I'm Marika Moore, and if you want to get all up in my business, you should check out my new book, Unsolicited Marriage Advice, where I provide an analysis of the best marriage advice that I've received over the past 16 years or so. So head on over to Amazon and buy it now. Y'all ain't messed up and let baby sis take the lead today. So what we're going to be doing is interviewing our boy Marv B about the upcoming book and documentary, The Standard. So we're going live today. Tune in. Here we are.
I get to be the one being interviewed today. You the host.
Finally.
No C, no laugh, just us.
They didn't let the two ridiculous ones.
Hey, listen, I can't be ridiculous with the letters on. You know, even though I don't have the letters on, people still know. So I can't be ridiculous. Shout out to Lab. Lab is, represents the black and no gold too. But he had a family emergency. But yeah, no, I'm glad to be here. I'm in capable hands with you.
All right. From your lips to God's ears.
Yeah.
All right. So the big thing that we have going on this week, one of the things that I keep talking about is the fact that this documentary is a testament to the legacy that you're leaving behind. So I guess give a little synopsis about what it is that we're talking about. What is The Standard? What is the book? What is the documentary? Let us know.
Sure. So The Standard is the story of Alpha Phi Alpha at the University of Missouri, Columbia. So obviously you see me with the hoodie on. I pledged Alpha back in 1997 at the University of Missouri. For those of y'all don't know, but if you've been watching the show for years, y'all know that we are all college friends. Met on the campus, the University of Missouri, except for C. C's still the homie though. And that's where a lot of our formative years happen. For people that attended the University of Missouri or who knows about Mizzou, you know that the experience for Black people hasn't always been welcoming. It hasn't always been pleasant due to racism. We're just going to call it out. And this film talks about Alpha Phi Alpha at the University of Missouri and our contributions, which are major to the university. But it also talks about our experience. And the thing that would stand out to most people is that, the first Black student on Mizzou's campus arrived in 1950. He was a brother Alpha Phi Alpha. And a lot of the things that were happening in 1950, the late 60s when our chapter was founded, 70s, 80s, in the 90s when we were there, all of these things were consistent that, hey, we had the same complaints, we had the same challenges that we had to face, and things really didn't change that much for Black people at all. So while this is a story about Alpha Phi Alpha, this is also a story about the Black experience at Mizzou. So I think, everybody can relate to this and everybody will be entertained by the story.
Okay. So what inspired you to turn this book into a documentary?
So COVID had happened and, everybody was locked down in their house. And at the time I was unemployed. So I, organized, I said, hey, bros, we haven't been together in a while. Let's all convene back in Columbia and get together and fellowship. And when we got together, I started seeing some of the older brothers from our chapter. I was looking at them and I said, I haven't seen them move that slow ever. These are powerful men. These are, difference makers in the community and on campus. And when I saw them, I was like, yeah, no, we can't take that risk. We can't take the risk of losing this history. So what I did was, I came up with the idea. Actually, I was inspired another chapter. Shout out to Epsilon Psi down at Rolla. They had did a project like this. And the guy that helped him with that project is one of my frat brothers, Darius Jerome Gordine. And, I reached out to him and I was like, hey, man, I want to do this, for Zeta Alpha, my chapter. So I put together a crowdfunding program to the brothers in our chapter because I was like, listen, if we don't put our money behind it, if we don't care about it, nobody else will. And
Mm-hmm.
raise the money, not nearly enough money, you know what I'm saying? So this definitely is a labor of love for me. And we did it. We did the thing. So we did a filming campaign of 3 days. We flew into St. Louis, interviewed about 15 brothers there, went to the campus, did a lot of filming on campus, talked to about 10 or 12 brothers in Columbia. And then we went to Kansas City, talked to another about 15 brothers. And then after that, I wasn't satisfied with those interviews. And I knew that there were certain people that I had to have as a part of this project just because of what they bring to our story. So I traveled all over. I went to Chicago. I went to Los Angeles, Kentucky. I was all over this because this was a mission of mine because if you're going to tell a story, you got to tell it right.
Right.
So that's what we did. And this is back in 2023. And now we're here in May 2025, and it's that time. People are going to see what we've been working on.
Speaking of, people gonna see what we've been working on. Shout out where we having the premieres this week.
Okay, so May 15th, we'll be at the High Point Theater in St. Louis. Doors open at 6:30. And then afterwards, we'll have like an after set at Turn Restaurant in St. Louis. You only get in with proof of purchase of a ticket, and unless you real fine, and then I'll probably let you in. But but I gotta stop. I got the I can't be regular Marv. I got to be Alpha Marv. But anyway, High Point Theater and the High Point Theater, not the High Point Drive-In. I want to clarify. High Point Theater. It's on McCausland. You can go to our website www.zacharitable.org, and then there's a drop down that says documentary, and then you can purchase your tickets there. You can purchase your tickets for St. Louis, and then you can also purchase for Kansas City. Now we'll be in Kansas City on May 18th. Doors open at 4 o'clock. We'll be at the historic Gym Theater. Always a big dream of mine to bring something to the Gym Theater. This is on 18th and Vine. And we will be having a premiere in Kansas City. We'll also be having a premiere in Columbia as well. Smaller release. We're really focusing on, getting people to come out to St. Louis and Kansas City.
Okay. So you mentioned the charitable organization. Tell us more about that.
Okay, so the Zeta Alpha Charitable Foundation is our 501c3 for our fraternity. When I say our fraternity, I mean the alumni members that pledged at the University of Missouri. So this is our nonprofit charitable foundation. What we focus on is giving scholarships to young people in the state of Missouri that want to attend the University of Missouri, Black students. And we also have a focus on this being involved in the community as well, different endeavors in the community. And we also have a focus on our elderly brothers, reaching back to them, making sure that they aren't forgotten and that they're still taken care of and involved. And, we're making sure that we don't just cast that wisdom aside just because they're moving slower and they can't do the things that they normally do. So we're really focused on making a difference in the community. We're partnering with a bunch of different organizations. One, the Arnell Monroe Scholarship. Arnell Monroe is one of our frat brothers. We call him Spanky. We talk about him in the movie. He has this scholarship that goes towards students at Hickman High School. So, we're really just involved in the community. So all the proceeds go to our charitable foundation, which is a 501c3. I always mess that up. 501c3, and really just doing some work in the community with that program.
501c3 means it's tax deductible, so go ahead and contribute. That's
Right.
what that means.
And so some people and I have amazing friends, and a lot of them's like, hey, we can't make the movie. Can we just buy a ticket? I would say if you want to support, you can just go to our website, zacharitable.org, and then there's a link that you could just donate. That way, we don't have to worry about the fees and all that stuff when you're buying tickets. You can just go straight to our organization, and we really appreciate it.
Okay, that's dope too. All right, so given the fact that obviously Alpha Phi Alpha is an organization of firsts, how important is it for you to maintain that legacy of preserving the standard that was set by the individuals that came before you in your organization?
It's very important to me. And that's why I wanted to tell this story. You know, we're at a time where our history is being erased. The enemy doesn't want us to tell our stories. They want it hid. They want it not told so that our young people won't know where they come from and who they are. When we talk about the Black community, obviously there are several people that were involved in the freedom struggle that have done good things. It just so happens that in this setting at the University of Missouri, the brothers at Alpha Phi Alpha really over indexed in their influence and the sacrifice and the courage and the dogged tenacity that they had to try to push things forward for the Black community. So it's important to me for us to know this because we got to know where we're from. I saw a meme on social media where somebody was saying, y'all went from "we not our ancestors" to "oh, we're doomed," when we're talking about with this dude that we have in office. And
Right.
when you see this story, you'll realize that, hey, there are people who fought. They weren't perfect, but they showed up and they tried to make a difference. And that effort that they put forward made it to where you became the amazing attorney that you are. And, whatever little success that I've had, it's because
Don't do that. Don't downplay it.
it's because of those people that blazed that trail. When we talk about Alpha Phi Alpha at Mizzou, the story starts with Lloyd Gaines.
It does.
It starts with Lloyd Gaines, and he pledged at Alpha Psi down at Lincoln University, an Alpha brother, and he went through a lot just to try to attend to the university, and they wouldn't let him in. So, we tell that story about what he went through because it all just sets the table, not only for just us as the men of Alpha Phi Alpha, but just Black students, period, at Mizzou.
And I think also learning about stories like that while you attend there, it gave you a sense of like pride and community with the other people that went there. It's like we are like blazing a trail that our ancestors really, really shed blood and tears for us to be on. Like this is not fictional. There are literal blood and tears on this trail so that we could be walking the paths that we're walking today.
Yeah.
So, and I was thinking about that, like with the current political climate, do you think our D9 organization should be doing more to preserve our own history and our own heritage?
I think that that's definitely something that we need to do, but I definitely think that we need to be more on the forefront on combating racism and the things that are impacting our community. I think that we have become somewhat soft. A Facebook post, a press release,
Mm,
something on Twitter that really just don't cut it. When you look at Lloyd Gaines, it was alpha men. It was alpha men. Charles Hamilton Houston, Sidney Redmond, Thurgood Marshall, all alpha men. They were like, no, we're gonna go to Missouri and we're gonna fight. And that's what needs to happen. I mean, you look at what they're doing. Like one of my fraternity brothers, brother Ross Baraka, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. He's running for governor in New Jersey. You saw Homeland Security just scooped him up. And
mhm.
and everybody had outcry. They're saying, hey, listen, what's going on with our brother? And that's all well and good. But where are obviously he's got legal representation. But my thing is like, no, we need to show up. We need to show up in force. And that's what I feel like the community needs to see more from the D9 is yes, we do a lot of work in the community. But are we, my question is, are we fishing in an aquarium?
Mm,
You can't fish in an aquarium. You can't just listen. I'm doing a youth program and I got my kids and my friends' kids, and we know it's safe. Nah, you got to go in the ocean and fish. You got to
mm.
go in these communities that are disadvantaged and really make a difference. So I'm hoping that with this film, People will be inspired. It's not about us just bragging about, oh, we the first, we the first, we the first, we the first that did this. We are, but it is something that I want people to be inspired to say, okay, you know what? Let me when I see something, I'm gonna act. I'm not just gonna just take it. I'm not just gonna just let what I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna speak up. I'm gonna get people together and we're gonna make something happen.
So you see the book and the documentary as a call to action for all of us, not just the D9, but for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, the book is written by Brother Darius. It tells the story. He was the one that interviewed all of the different brothers that we talked about, as I mentioned earlier.
Mm,
So he's telling the story about, how Alpha developed at Mizzou. The
mm,
documentary expounds upon the novel that he wrote, and it talks about in depth everything that happened, but also you can see the
mm,
people.
mm.
You can see the people. You can see how the things that happened impacted them, and you can feel it. You feel it because here's the thing: they try to make it seem like the bad things that happened to us happened so long ago. The founders of our chapter, they arrived at Mizzou 1964, 1965. They, and I say this all the time when I talk about my father, they weren't even born, full citizens.
Mm, mm.
Think about it. They about 18 to 19 on Mizzou's campus. The Civil Rights Acts were being passed, and excuse me, I don't know how many days committed to memory, like in the 63, 64, 65, 66, around that time. That's when they were in college. And,
Yeah.
so to say that these things happen so long when I literally can call these people and say, hey, how you doing, brother? And talk to them, that lets you
Mm.
know that, we can't allow somebody to put our history to the side, and we have to keep it in the forefront.
I mean, and that's a responsibility that not just D9, but really everybody has. But I think Black people particularly have to really stand up in this time when we're trying to be censored so much and really take responsibility over preserving our history and our heritage because one, it's important to preserve it, but also it's important to preserve the truth of it because they're going to manipulate it and twist it. It's just like the size of Africa on the maps. They'll sell you a dream in a second. And
Right.
if we're not passing down the truth and the knowledge to our own, then who will? Nobody.
Right.
So, what have you learned from this experience?
Man, I learned so much about this chapter. I learned so much about the university, our alma mater. I mean,
Mm,
you talked about, hey, being on campus and knowing these things and the sense of pride that it gave you. I often talked about on the show how I got three people who are much smarter than me. That was proof. That was proof in the pudding right there because I was just on campus kicking it, and and obviously I was privy to some things, but calling out some of the racist fraternities. There's one
mm,
fraternity in particular that if you went to Mizzou, you know how they get down. And while they were a little bit less bold while we were there back in the 60s, they didn't hide it. They didn't hide, their feelings about racism and everything that goes along with it. And you will see that in this film. I mean, we don't pull any punches with this. We call everything out. Yes, it is a story about Alpha Phi Alpha, but
mm.
if you all have been watching this show and you know me, you know that I'm gonna call out the system. I'm gonna call it out, and I'm telling you, you'll definitely be entertained with this film.
I thought you was trying to bait me there for a second because I was like, when we were there, that fraternity right there on the corner, right there where they built the new business center, had the dog named the N word. See how I said the N
That's
word?
that's the fraternity I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And
I'm like,
and
that
what's
was
crazy is talking to the brothers that were there in the 60s. And I said, yeah, there was a rumor that they had a dog, named the N-word. And he was like, no, that's true. That was true. This particular fraternity, if you walked into their frat house, I never did, but if you walked into their frat house, they had a huge Confederate flag inside the frat house.
Mm.
And for those who went to Mizzou are familiar with it, they had like an old like Civil War cannon in their front yard, and
They
that
did.
cannon was pointed directly at our Black Culture Center.
I did not know that. That's
If you
crazy.
look at it, that cannon was pointed at the Black Culture Center, and
Formerly
and,
known as.
right, and I don't, and I, obviously I want people to see the film to see the story, but I'll tell a quick story. Shout out to my brother Eric Thurman. He's not an alpha, but he's a good man. But this particular fraternity, they were known for being what they were. And at the time, I worked at the bowling alley. And the bowling alley was downstairs in the student union. The student union looks completely different than it looks now.
Nothing like what it was when we
I'm
went there.
sure they demolished the bowling alley, but I worked at the bowling alley. That was my campus job. And part of working on the bowling alley, there was a Subway right there attached to the bowling alley. So we would have to ring people up, when they bought their sandwiches. And on our student IDs, the white fraternities and sororities, they would put like their stickers on their student ID, like Alpha Phi or, the
They
Beta
had to.
or
They
whatever.
wouldn't let each other into their parties without it.
And you know why.
Mm.
So they had those stickers, and I was sitting there with Eric. Eric was making drinks. I was ringing people up, right? And this dude, and you can assume what he looks like, right? As I'm telling the story, he has this ID and he just flips it and throws it at me, like throws it on the counter, obviously because he didn't want to touch my hand, right? Because I was Black. So I looked at him and I rang him up. And when I got done, I threw it into his chest, like threw it into his chest. And he looked at me and my boy Eric. And there's some people that don't know how to whisper. Eric is one of them people that don't know how to whisper, right? Like even when you whisper, it's like, I was like, dude, just talk, because you whisper it, yeah. So, so I throw it back into his chest, and he looks at me, and before he could walk off, Eric, loud as hell, I was hoping you would do that shit. I was hoping you would do that shit. And I was like, chill out, man, chill out. So, that's just one story about how like we always had to encounter and deal with something. Like it's sad that in 1995, 96, 97, that I have stories about walking across campus and guys being in trucks calling me the N-word driving by. And when you talk to people that pledged in the 80s, 70s, and 60s, they have the same story.
Oh,
The same story.
I almost met my end out there one time on a date with a white boy. It's my last date with a white boy. I got out that truck. They called me the N-word. I was like, oh, he was like, who brought the N-word? I was like, oh my God. My friends don't know where I am. I don't know where I am. I'm over with.
You had your Dr. Umar moment.
Man, I was like, it's the last time I get out.
Yeah, but this is, it's not all doom and gloom.
No.
Also very entertaining parts of this story. When we talk about the parties, we talk about stepping. I'm a step show champion myself. We talk about stepping and just the Black culture at Mizzou.
Fall Fest.
Because
Fall Fest was my favorite.
what'd you say?
Fall Fest was my favorite.
I definitely see Fall Fest. And you think about it now, I don't think they do Fall Fest anymore, but they had something that was where Black was in the name. And the school made them take Black out the name. They, that's how they,
CCC.
these attacks on DEI. And DEI is just another way for them to say the N-word, y'all. That's it. And we talk about all this, man. We talk about the 2015 uprising at Mizzou. The men of Alpha Phi Alpha were at the forefront of that, and they paid a heavy price. And we need to see that. And there's some institutions that get called out. Shout out to the NFL. And y'all know how I feel about that. So you definitely want to see this because you know, I don't know, Rika. I'm calling out a lot of folks, man. I need y'all to protect me because this right here, we telling it like a TI is.
And listen, we got your back.
Appreciate
About the show, we about the action.
you.
So, okay, so what was your favorite part of the documentary then?
I'm gonna have to say, man, the parts that really show the brotherhood,
Mm.
like there's some old I say old, I'm talking about the 80s, but 80s, early 90s, Arika was still in diapers, but old tapes of, us stepping, us on campus. And then, we bring it to, current days where young brothers are doing the different chants and fraternizing. And obviously, as producer, director, I've seen this film 200 times, but every time I see those young bros doing the chants that we used to do, I'm walking through the airport. Yeah, I'm walking through the airport, singing, the different chants that we have. We party hard, we stay up late. I'm doing all of that. So that's my favorite part. But honestly, every single part of this movie is great. And I'm not just saying that because I did it. It really is entertaining.
Well, I haven't seen it yet, so I can't second that, but I will tell you that everybody doesn't know this, but I went to college at 16. And when I tell you, I had no idea how woefully unprepared I was to be on a college campus
Hmm.
at 16 until the brothers of ZA took me under their wing and literally provided me with protection. I didn't even know. Everybody was like, "Oh, you that girl that's 16." I was like, "How does everybody know this?" I was like, "How does everybody know how old I am?"
I don't know if you remember this, but I think we were having our powder puff football game. So Brothers of Alpha, we used to have our powder puff football where, each one of us would have a team of young ladies. And let me tell you, them powder puff football games was no joke. I mean, sometimes there's a couple fights. There's a couple times we had to say, "Hey, look, y'all, look, we ain't got no money. So if y'all hurt yourselves, listen, don't chill out a
Calm
little."
down.
But I remember, I can't remember if it was a fall fest or if it's our powder puff. But I just remember the bros, because I was older. When did you get to Mizzou?
98.
So by that time, 98, I was a seasoned junior at the university. I just remember the bros like walking you over to me. And it was like, dude, she's 16. I don't know if you remember. And I said, that means she's off limits.
To everybody. That spread like across campus. It's
Like,
like to everybody.
yeah. Because campus,
Influence though.
we talk about the racism, but unfortunately, college campuses can be like petri dish.
Predatory.
Yeah, so we needed to. Unfortunately, we probably could have did more, but we that's what we were supposed to do.
I mean, but the fact that you guys had the influence and utilized it to protect not just women, but Black women the way that you did, I think that that speaks to, the name of the book, The Standard. So that's kind of what, when I heard the name The Standard, that's kind of what I was thinking back to, how you guys literally was just like, no, this our little sister, don't even look at her. It's fine. And so to me, I had never met college men before or whatever. Obviously, I was 16, but I wasn't that close to the college, going people in my family. So I didn't really have that type of influence. I had no idea what college campuses were like, what I was in for, anything like that. So to me, it was all this new experience. And I came in literally understanding it to be the standard that y'all set in my mind. That is literally how I came in. So my first party was at the Palomino room. You can't tell me nothing about A by A because I was just like, oh yeah, I'm hooked.
And
I'm here. I go to Mizzou. I like it here. I'm staying.
yeah, yeah.
So, but that's for me. So what does the standard mean to you?
You know, shout out to my pledge father, Frank Mosley. I talked about how Erika was, doing what she was supposed to do. Although she didn't listen to us. She snuck and did her thing, y'all. But um I remember I wasn't handling my business in the classroom. And my pledge father came and he sat me down and he was like, look, you out here partying, chasing women, doing all these things. And the women that you chasing after, they study during the daytime. You out here at the rec playing video games, chilling with your boys, and then after you get done trying to mac on a chick, then you say you want to say you study, and that's why it's not happening for you. And he impressed upon me, and I'll never forget this. He said, you have to lead by example. And to me, that's what the standard is all about. You have to lead by example because, I talked about at the beginning of the show, the D9 organizations, it's not enough, man, putting out a social media post or a press release. No, people need to see us. Otherwise, we just become a joke, to the people. I mean, we matter to ourselves, but back in the day, we were advancing the cause for Black people, and we need to get back to that.
I
We
agree
need to
with
get back
that.
to that standard.
So, if that's the standard, what does it mean to be an alpha man to you?
Um, I said this in the movie. Pledging Alpha was one of the best things I did in my life. And I know that because my mama, who's dead and gone, she told me, hey, one of the best things you ever did was pledge Alpha
Mm.
because she saw the impact that it had on me, the proximity to, you know, young men my age who were on the pathway to success, older men who would look back to us and mentor us on how to be men. Look, I'm from Topeka, Kansas. I'm from Topeka, Kansas, where you could go out to the club and wear some sneakers, your family reunion T-shirt, and some jean shorts, and still pull some chicks out the club. And here I am going to school with kids from Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City, and there were plenty of times where I was embarrassed, because I underdressed, didn't know how to comport myself in different situations. And not just the college experience, but being with the brothers at Alpha Phi Alpha, it helped me grow as a man. Alpha Phi Alpha is about the college for the better making of men. Emphasis on men. You can have your different outlooks on life, but when it comes down to it, man, we have to be men and set the example and lead in our community. And that's what Alpha means to me.
Well, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't think that I could be who I am today without the influence of the men of ZA. That's why y'all hold a special place in my heart.
I appreciate it.
And that's all the good questions I got for you today. So,
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. So, hey, listen, go to our website, www.zacharitable.org. You can find out about our organization. You can buy your tickets, not too late. You can buy a ticket to the St. Louis showing at the High Point Theater. You can buy a ticket to the Kansas City showing at the historic Gym Theater. I'm really hyped about that. I really am. I saw a movie about Huey Newton
ooh,
at the gym back in the early 2000s. And showing this movie here to me would be a highlight for me. Um, Tickets are still available. Come on out. We'll have a link to on our website very soon so that you can purchase the book, and you can go to our social media, the standard 06 on Instagram and Facebook. Click the link in our bio. You can buy the book. You can purchase tickets. And we just definitely need to see this needs to be like a Mizzou reunion.
ooh,
We need to have everybody
black alumni.
except the no, I ain't
Don't
gonna
do
say.
that. Don't do that. I almost said I couldn't be who I am without ZA and Andre Thorne because for sure,
So here's the here's the
instrumental in my life.
Andre is in another organization. Okay.
Another.
I don't the Kappas.
Okay. We know their names.
And I will tell you that I always say on this show that we're much stronger together.
Mhm.
And our love and our brotherhood and our sisterhood is revolutionary. And Andre is one of those men who has made a difference in the lives of Black students. Think about how going to Mizzou, and, Mizzou wasn't no punk. Mizzou was like a public private institution.
Mhm. We know they was getting over on us the whole time because we supposed to be going there for free.
There you go. And not only that, but imagine trying to navigate that. And I think when we were at Mizzou, it may have been what, 1,000, maybe 1,000 Black students, maybe probably like 800, something like that. And the campus had 20,000 people. And people always used to ask me, like my friends that went to HBCUs, they was like, man, how y'all do that? Like, how did y'all exist? And I tell them all the time, when you're in that situation, the only thing you see is your fellow Black student, because we
Mhm.
literally were all we had. And
Shout out to Brady Commons.
yeah, we were literally all we had. And we talk about Brady Commons in the film because remember we had our section?
Fellowship.
Remember we had our section? Uh,
Sure.
there's a reason why we had that section, and we talk about that in the film. People need to show up and see that.
I
But
need to know.
but I used to tell folks, man, like being on campus with such small numbers, I remember just walking and the white students, they just became a part of the background. They were just like park bench or a tree or a
Mhm.
building, because it was just like we were just surrounded by them. And then all of a sudden I see Erika, or I see, one of my other friends or my frat brothers like, yo, what's up? And that was just it. I had a roommate. Shout out to my roommate. I can't remember his last name, but his first name was Dave. He was from Harrisonville, Missouri, white guy. And more than once, probably like 2 or 3 times, like I'd be on campus and he literally would get right up on me and would be like, Marvin, you didn't see me waving at you? And I have it in my heart to be like, dude, you look like everybody else out here. He's a good dude. But that was really it.
Yeah.
All we had was us. And
Folk.
I joke about the Kappas. I'm somewhat serious about it, but I'm joking at the same time.
That's how I am with the Deltas.
You know,
Wait, not serious.
I love the Deltas, but uh,
Someone has to.
stop. Uh, so we both got an aversion to red and white. Then, is that what we're saying?
It is. That's
Deltas,
what it is.
but Deltas, I love you, so please come to see the show. And
And Noops, I love you. So come see the show. See it
there's a
all work.
city, there's a city audience. We're gonna have two at each showing. So, but
Yeah, I mean, if they gonna have on red and white, they're gonna be confused. They're not gonna know who to let in and not to.
we
We gotta
know
let
who
them.
they are. It's like Judge Mathis. You ever see Judge Mathis? Another alpha man. Judge Mathis, when somebody come on the show, it's like, you smoke crack, don't you? I can smell it on you. I can smell that KSI on the Negro, so they can come in
Listen,
all Black. I know
don't
who.
worry about that. Buy your tickets in advance, and all we're gonna be checking is tickets, not a time.
Nah, we really want everybody out. But my point is, we had our different, rivalries on campus, but the beauty in it all is that once we left Mizzou, that we, became grown men. Because see, we went to campus, and I think it's a difference now because we all got kids who are in college or about to enter college right now. We arrived on campus as, take you out of it, Doogie Howser, but the rest of us, especially the men, we arrived on campus as young men that needed to be developed. I see these young people now and they still kids. And maybe it's just because I'm an older man and they like my kids' age, but I don't see that development. And probably because our parents was different than we were as parents, right? So we're a little bit more prepared to be independent. But once we, got out of that young men stage and we got out here and we realized that, hey, listen, man, we all facing the same challenges. We are facing the same challenges, and we need to look out for one another. I would tell you that in my career, um, a brother of KSI, a brother of Omega Sci-Fi, they've helped me get land positions and immediately impacted my family. So again, I joke about fraternities or whatever, but we want to see everybody out.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is we don't necessarily appreciate the fact that a lot of us are first generation college students. And so we come into that space not knowing what to expect, not knowing how fraternities and sororities move and being impacted by the general like enormity of being on a college campus because like obviously at the age of 16 I was just like what what is happening? I can stay out as late as I want to. People are hanging out. I only got to dial 4 digits to get people on the phone. Like, what's happening? I was like,
Yeah.
it was so much.
But see, I
But
growing up in Topeka, I was like 15 minutes away from KU. So
mm,
um, it was safer for me to go to the campus parties because the campus parties, they were college kids, right?
yeah, got
And
something to lose.
I'm 6'3", and so football player. Me and my boys, we could blend in, right? We were the locals. Every university has the locals that show up. We were the locals, but it was safer because the city that I grew up in was violent. It was
Mm-hmm.
violent. So, I could get an extension on my curfew because my mom was like, shit, I'd rather you be partying on campus versus, out here with some knuckleheads that may try to,
That's true.
do you some harm or whatever. So, the college experience, man, was wonderful. Anybody that's been through it, you will go down memory lane watching this film. Yes, it's a movie about Alpha Phi Alpha, but I'm telling you, everybody can relate, and you need to come check it out.
And also, it's our history. We need to preserve it. We need to respect it. We need to support it. It's mandatory.
Absolutely, because here's the thing. Let's have our support for this film set the standard. See what I did?
Mm-hmm.
Set the standard of how we support all projects.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a film about Zeta Phi Beta at Mizzou, Kappa Alpha Psi, Sigma Gamma Rho, whatever, right? Any organization, we need to support that. We need to support that because, if we don't support, then people won't be inclined to take the risk to tell our story, and the
Mm-hmm.
enemy wins.
Take the risk to tell our story with authenticity. That's the part that we need to preserve is the authenticity because they'll tell it wrong as hell, but we need to tell it with the authenticity and with, like you said, it's a difference sometimes with actually seeing the emotion on the actual people's faces when they're explaining the experience that they went through. You can feel, what they went through. You can feel how they felt when they experienced whatever they're talking about. And it's important for us to understand that that information, that story needs to be preserved because that's exactly what we used to do. We used to share our stories and we used to pass it down to our kids. And if we're not preserving them, we're not passing them down, then we're letting our children down, our grandchildren,
Yep.
my babies, everybody.
Yep.
Because I mean, you got to know. You got to know where you come from to know where you're going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we want to see everybody out. We'll be in St. Louis May 15th. We'll be in Kansas City May 18th. Come out support.
I think we talked about it enough.
I was hoping you would say that. Yep. Yep. Tell them where they can find us.
You can find us on YouTube, Instagram,
Facebook.
Facebook. What's the one? Threads. Is it Threads?
Yeah, yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And also Apple something for you iPhone users with the blue bubbles or something.
See, you've been doing great. You've been doing you've been doing great. But hey, all you Android users, y'all can go to our website too, zacharitable.org, and buy your ticket,
Tax deductible,
and
donate,
listen, definitely tax deductible. And listen, Arika talked about the deltas. I want to clean that up. We need the AKAs, the deltas, the zetas, the sigma gamma rhos. I need all y'all to come out and bring your fine friends.
and
And
the GD
what'd you say?
and the GDIs. Don't forget about
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. Everybody. We need everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. Everybody.
Everybody show up. So
Listen, and like he said, those childhood beefs are just that, childhood beefs. As adults, I have grown to love and respect everybody from the D9 family. And I think that the impact that we have as a D9 like system is more impactful than any of us can do on our own because obviously the numbers and the influence, it's important, and it's important what we do and what we represent, and it's important how we do it and how we represent. So not just words but actions too. So the more we link together and the more we support each other, the greater we are as a unit, as a whole.
hey, and before we go, do you know how old I am? I remember when we were the Elite Eight.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
How, wait, when did that, never mind.
No, that changed. No, no. And shout out to the brothers Iota Phi.
I know. That's all. Just like, tell me you don't know your history without telling me you don't know your.
No, shout out to them because they were trailblazers too, because they brought their fraternity to Mizzou's campus, and they weren't a part of the D9 didn't exist at the time. It hadn't been ratified, and were we the Elite Eight? I think it was the Elite Eight. I can't even remember, but it was eight, right? It was the four sororities, the four fraternities, and when we had our Panhellenic meetings, we would allow the brothers of Alpha Phi Theta to participate. Why? Because they were in this experience with us. They were in this experience with us. And then obviously, on the national level, the D9 was created. But it's we all we got, y'all. We all we got. And I can't say that enough. And I just hope to see everybody out. So we'll holler at you next time.
Peace.
Peace.
Shout out to Live and See.
Shout out to Lav and C.